What's up, y'all? This is Brave, and I'm back for another review of The Chi. This is Season 6, Episode 3, and the episode is titled Houseparty. Let's get right into this review. So we actually start this episode off with Emmett, and we see that he is scrubbing down walls and all types of things because he is trying to get that security deposit back, you know what I'm saying, because he's moving out. And next thing you know, Tiff comes in, and they reminisce a little bit because they did share this place once in time, but they're both happy that they have moved on. I'm like, thank God, because I cannot see Tiff and Emmett back together. Absolutely not. So she's noticing that he's changing his attire. And, now he got a little money in his pocket, so he's starting to dress like Doodah. So, because he has some time on his hands, he offers to take her to breakfast and all this stuff. I was like, all right, cool. That's how we're going to start the, episode. So in the next scene, we actually see Emmett and Keisha. She's getting the house ready for their housewarming party, and they both have invited friends from high school. And I'm just like, okay, that's going to be interesting because we have not seen either one of these people have friendships. Like, I feel like Keisha may have had like a friend or two at one point in time, but Emmett always hung out with people who were not his age. For example, he was hanging out with Brandon when we first, jumped on the scene. Then at one point he was hanging out with Kevin. Like, Emmett ain't got no friends that's his age. So I'm like, okay, this might work. Finally we get some people that's around their age and, maybe they can relate. Or at least that's what I thought. But we'll get there later. Of course, Emmett, he wants to go ahead and knock some boots. And Keisha gonna be down for it. She is. So in the next scene, we jump on over to Smokey's. And we see that Kenya is getting yelled at by a customer because his order wasn't ready. Now, Papa got to come save the day because this man is going off on Kenya. I guess she's the one who dropped the ball. Keep in mind, she's a new employee or whatever. And they basically set his order date to the next day. So that's why it wasn't ready. So Papa is out here giving this man all types of free stuff just to keep the customer happy. However, this man had to apologize to Kenya for the way that he was speaking to her. And he does apologize, you know what I'm saying? And I'm just like, you know what? I do like the fact that Papa is still that stand-up guy. Like, no matter what happens with Papa, he is still that same stand-up guy. Especially if he likes a girl, he gonna ride for her. Like, love to see it, Papa. We love to see it. So we also see that there are some other people that are at Smokey's right now. And it's going to be Lene and her brother. So they're eating or whatever. And he wants to meet her boyfriend. I'm like, are you sure you want to meet Bakari? Because, Bakari out here in these streets. And here's the thing. He already knows about Bakari. He already knows the game that Bakari is playing. He already knows that Bakari is working with Doodah. Now, Lene is like, oh, well, he's just a lookout. Baby girl, your brother is smarter than you when it comes to this street stuff. So he definitely knows that Bakari, he's going to be doing more soon. Now, one thing that I will say is that you can honestly see how naive Lene is, especially because she's not believing her brother. And that was until he brought up the fact that there's many women who are in jail right now doing time for men that they love. And I'm just like, listen, what we not gonna see, The Chi, is Lene get locked up, okay? I don't think I can handle that. You know what I'm saying? Bakari, I don't know if you even gonna make it to the end of the season playing around with Doodah. But I really don't want to see anything happen to Lene. Also, I must say, Vic Mensa's voice, yeah, that's where it's at. Also, he's very handsome. I gotta throw that out there. But let's go ahead and move on. Alright, so now we done got to the damn house party, right? And Keisha, she's with her friend. I think her name was Malaysia, right? So they're like walking around the house or whatever. And this girl got all the questions, okay? Now, I did crack up when she was like, girl, you came a long way from hiding up under Emmett's bed. Woo, that took me back to the first episode. Y'all remember how we met Keisha and Emmett sneaking around, Jada coming in telling her to get from underneath the bed? Oh my gosh. I gotta go revisit the first season of The Chi. Nonetheless, ooh, maybe I should do that. Maybe I should do some reviews on the first, I think, 2 seasons, because I didn't do reviews on it on the show then. Just a thought. Nonetheless, here's the thing. This girl, like I said, she has all these questions. She's super nosy because she's like, oh, well, how much is the rent over here? Oh, it's a mortgage? How much our mortgage is? And then she has the audacity to remind Keisha that Emmett has a reputation. I'm like, ma'am, it's been some years. Could you please not? Let's not do this. Now, on Emmett's side of things, his friend ain't no better, because he's talking about how he got to have multiple women, some protein shakes, and whatever he posted on the gram. Listen, I said that Keisha and Emmett need friends. These ain't the type of friends I was talking about. These ain't the friends that they need. But next thing you know, Tiff and Rob show up, and Keisha, she mentions the car or whatever that Tiff has now. And Tiff is like, girl, you got a whole house out of this man. Relax. And I'm just like, that's interesting. I feel like there's some tension between Keisha and Tiffany. I wonder if we're going to address that at some point. Of course, we already know things are still awkward between Emmett and Rob. It's just always going to be that way. Or maybe not. We'll see what happens in this season. All right, let's slide on over to Smokey's again, because Shad is over here eating at Smokey's. I said, sir, do you have anywhere else that you can eat, or do they give you a discount? Because he is always eating at Smokey's. Nonetheless, he ends up seeing Master Marshawn. Y'all remember the character played by D-Ray. So, he's like, oh man, you're Master Marshawn, all this stuff. Clearly, he's a big fan. And he wants to get some advice from this man. However, Master Marshawn is like, listen, you're going to have to go ahead and give me a payment for that. And here's the thing. He literally told him, yeah, you could go ahead and hit the link in my bio. I had to laugh at that part. That was pretty funny. So, Smokey's is packed, and there's no space for Marshawn to sit down. And where does he have to sit? Right next to Shad. And next thing you know, Shad is going on and on about his life. And here's the thing. Shad, I really need for you to get it together. Like, there has to be a way for you to make some money. For real. So, I feel like Shad at this point is telling anybody who will listen about his life. And I'm still trying to figure out how he doesn't have Victor's old position at Rock. Who took that space? I'm confused. Nonetheless, come to find out, both of these guys were invited to the housewarming party, and they decided they're going to ride together because Shad is driving Deja's car. Nonetheless, let's slide back over to the party, because you have Jada. She is out here talking to the realtor, right? The guy who sold the house to Emmett and Keisha. I'll say this. I'm trying to figure out why that man is still alive. I thought Duda would have had him killed already, because he didn't like the fact that that man wanted Keisha to see the house first. Am I the only one who's like surprised he's still alive? Nonetheless, they talk about the fact that the house is, all the way on the west side, and he goes on to talk about buying houses in black neighborhoods. Whoop-de-doo. Here's the thing about Jada. Jada needs some business. We gotta find Jada something to do. Like, I know that last season, it was heavy on her getting back with Darnell, but I just kind of feel like she needs something to do this season. Because her trying to find a man for her friend, that ain't it. Because later on in the episode, we still see Jada out here talking to Emmett's friends about, possibly being a potential man for Tracy. Ma'am, cut it out. Go get you a hobby. Especially considering you trying to find a man for Tracy. Girl, that ain't your job. I don't even know if Jada still have a job. Like, literally, it got to the point where Darnell had to come drag her ass away from the dude. A mess. But let's go ahead and move on. Now, let's slide on over to this conversation that Keisha had with her parents. Yeah. So they come by, drop off an air fryer. I'm like, all right, cool. So Dre is chasing down some man who supposedly owes her money. Now, here comes Nina's dry ass, and she's questioning, all these things about this house and Keisha, and her bringing up the fact that Keisha's now raising 3 kids that aren't even hers. All of this stuff. Ma'am, you should have told her this months ago. Like, why are you so delayed? Delayed ass Nina. And how dumb is it that they bought a house together and they aren't married? All of this stuff. And I'm just like, Nina, when were you there to be a parent? Like, the fact that your own child didn't even come to you to be like, hey, Mom, I'm thinking of actually, getting a house with my partner. Like, it really says a lot about y'all relationship. Like, the fact that she didn't come to you prior to this situation happening, and now they already are the homeowners, yeah, that's real interesting. And also, it's the fact that you waited till this moment to try to call Keisha out. Like, you want to call out the fact that she's playing stepmom. You want to call out the fact that they're not married. Now you're questioning if she's even happy. And I'm just like, Nina, I don't even think that you're happy. So go sit down somewhere. So now I'm just like, Keisha done stormed off. You done pissed her off. What could be next? Oh, now she sees Kevin. He basically waves her off. And I'm just like, well, she must feel like a failed parent. Because both her kids don't want to be bothered with her. So now she's whining to Dre about her kids not needing her. Ma'am, your kids haven't needed you ever, okay? Keisha ain't never needed her mama. Because her mama was never there for her. Even when they, brought Keisha back home, Nina was horrible, okay? Kevin definitely raised himself. Let me tell you something. One thing we know about Keisha and Kevin is that they raised themselves. And Nina was too busy worried about her own relationship with Dre or whatever that ex that she got. The one who she was with before she got with Dre. Because y'all remember that one season she was with the lady, and then we came back the next season, she was magically marrying Dre. Yeah, I'm never going to forgive Nina for being a piss poor parent ever in my life. Let's go ahead and move on. Alright, now we switch things over to Kevin. He's there with Lene and Maisha or whatever. And Kevin is out here fixing his plate, right? But here's the thing, baby boy is piling on the food right now. Because it's clear that Kevin must be surviving off of hot Cheetos, Gatorade, Oreos, and Reese's cups at his house. Because he ain't got no food at his house. I'm pretty sure all he got is junk. He don't know how to cook. And the girls are judging him, okay? So Lene, she tells them that, her brother, he wants to meet Bakari. You know what I'm saying? And how he wants to know all about Bakari, like all of that. And Kevin is like, well, they kind of are the same types of guys. And I would agree with Kevin because her brother is a street dude, and at this point, Bakari is a street dude. Actually, no, Bakari has always been in the streets. Because let's not forget that he popped that man. I can't think of his name right now. The old man, Ronnie. Let's not forget that part, okay? So, Bakari is a bad guy. Like, now I'm starting to question, like, Lene, do you not know that? That Bakari is a bad dude? Actually, he might be worse than your brother. If we really want to be technical. But, nonetheless, poor Lene. Like, she over here trying to mention some of the good things about her boyfriend. Because, let's not forget, he also almost got shot by Jake. I'm like, yeah, Bakari may have a better image now, sort of, kinda, but his past is terrible, okay? Alright, so we gotta move on because Duda has entered the scene. Duda has entered the building, okay? He done popped up with his crew to Emmett's housewarming party. And honestly, it's his housewarming party because we don't know how much money that Duda actually had to put in. But I'm pretty sure it wasn't a little chump change. You know what I'm saying? So, like I said, he strolled in with Bakari and Nook, right? Now, this man, he made a whole scene, y'all. A whole scene about how Emmett should open his gift later. Actually, right now. Ooh, not in here, though. You can't open it in here because the people are here. You got to open it alone. You got to open it in your room in some privacy because the guests can't see. Negro, please stop taking all the air out the room. Okay? Everybody else want to breathe, too. So, we later see that, of course, Duda has him open up the gift in his bedroom, and it's a gun. Now, Emmett doesn't want it, but Duda insists that he has to have it because, you know, you always want to have some protection from other people who might try to hurt you or your family. And Emmett is like, who would try to hurt my family? Anybody who, you know, probably ain't feeling Duda right now. You know what I'm saying? They could come after you because they know that you rocking with him. The whole city knows that you and Duda hanging tough right now. So, Emmett doesn't want it, but Duda tells him he needs to start acting like a boss. Like, we literally see Emmett practicing with the gun. And I'm like, this ain't you, dude. Please stop. Like, it's crazy to see how Duda is, you know, basically controlling Emmett at this point. Like, I feel like he's too grown for Duda to be able to get in his mind like this. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, don't you already know the stories of other people around you who have done business with Duda? How do you think that this is going to end? Nonetheless, he hides the gun in a drawer, right? All right, cool. So, we actually see him run into Darnell in the hallway or whatever, and they chit-chat for a little bit, but it looks like to me Darnell is going to go find that gift because Darnell already knows what's up, okay? So next thing you know, we have Nook in the kitchen trying to spark up, and Rob is there too, or whatever. And Keisha like, listen, you can't be doing that up in my house. You cannot smoke up in my house. You have to take that outside. So Rob is like, all right, I'm going to go with you, Nook. I'm like, okay, cool. He about to get some answers, right? Because that's the only reason why Rob would even go out there with Nook. You know what I'm saying? And so we see them outside, right? And he's just trying to, you know, get a little more information out of Nook. Because he knows that Nook, he runs in the same circle with Duda or whatever. So he may have some information about what happened to his uncle or whatever. Now, here's the thing. First of all, they start smoking or whatever. And Nook is over there choking, right? And Rob is like, well, listen, my weed is smooth. Go ahead and try it or whatever. So Nook tries it, and he wants to know, you're like, oh, where you get this from? And I'm just like, Rob, don't tell him nothing, because y'all not friends. When were you and Nook friends ever? So, like I said, the whole reason why Rob went out there, we get on the topic of Q. And Nook is like, you know, he still owed a lot of people money, all this stuff. He was gambling all his money away, all of this. And Rob, he asked him specifically, like, yo, what's up with Doodah though? Like, do you know if he had any beef with Q or what? And Nook is like, I heard that Q took some money from Tracy and Victor was mad about it, but that's it. Now, Rob is like, he didn't need money, so it doesn't even make sense why Q would take the money or whatever. And Nook, he continues to say that he don't know nothing. And I'm just like, if I'm not mistaken, didn't Nook probably come get the body, considering he's Doodah's right-hand man at this point now? Yeah, Nook knows some stuff, but he can't say anything because he can't cross Doodah. So we shall see what's going to happen in the future with that storyline. But let's jump back into the show because I kind of jumped all around. But y'all continue to rock with me. Alright, so now let's jump on over to the fact that we hear little EJ, he uses the B word, right? While he's talking to Keisha's child. And, according to him, he said this is a word that he heard in his mom's car. So now Keisha, she's upset about it, and she thinks that Emmett needs to talk to Tiff. He doesn't really think anything of it. Emmett kind of jokes off about it, and he's like, okay, I see that Keisha's upset. I'm going to clear things up with Tiff. I'm going to talk to Tiff about it, right? I did like the fact that Emmett realized that Keisha felt the way. So it was time for him to grow up in that moment and, admit that he needs to have a conversation with Tiffany. I said, yep, it's time for you to grow up, have the conversation. That way everything's out on the table and y'all can figure out what to do about EJ and his language. So next thing you know, we see Victor strolling around the house or whatever, and he sees Doodah. So he questions why Doodah is there. And I'm just like, you haven't seen Doodah running around with Emmett? You haven't seen him like everybody else has seen him? Where you been? So here he goes talking about some, don't be getting Emmett wrapped up in your mess, Doodah, and, all of this stuff. But I'm just like, where were you at to warn Emmett about Doodah? You was working for this man. You've been crossed by this man. You know a lot about Doodah. Where were you at to warn your homeboy, don't do business with him? Don't mess with Doodah. Doodah ain't a good dude. Where were you at? Oh, my bad. You were running for city councilman. Whoop-de-doo. So, Doodah, he basically feels like Victor should be thanking him at this point, because if it wasn't for Doodah, Victor would not be in the position that he's in. And Victor's like, no, F you. Because now that Victor is the councilman, he feels like Doodah needs to watch how he talks to him. So they end with Doodah saying that Victor needs to stay out of his way. And I'm just like, I feel like Victor is going to get in your way. Possibly. You know what I'm saying? Maybe Doodah's going to be doing something corrupt. And as a councilman, he's going to have to get involved. I don't know. But it's so interesting to see Victor really walk around as if he was never Trig. That is the funniest thing to me. Because, no offense, Victor is just like Otis Perry. Like, at one point we knew you as Trig, but now you want to act all high and mighty as Victor because you're the councilman. No different than Otis Perry was the mayor. However, Doodah is that street dude. Like, it's very interesting to me. So, next thing you know, the beat drops and we hear the wobble. And of course we see everybody on the dance floor. Alright, cool. So next thing you know, we see that Kevin, he is out here giving Maisha the eyes. Because we see Kevin and Emmett talk or whatever. And, they're talking about how Kevin, he's on his own. He got his own place. All this stuff. Now, according to Emmett, if he had his own place when he was Kevin's age, he would be smashing all the time. Shout out to Kevin for giving this man a reminder. You were doing that at your mama's house. That's why you had already had 2 kids by the time we met you. No, he had 3 kids. Because I think Tiff had already had the baby. Yeah, you had already had 3 kids. And you was like in high school. Sir, please stop it. So, and like I said, Kevin and Maisha out here giving each other the googly eyes or whatever. And Emmett, he takes notice. So he asked, if they were getting back together. And Kevin is like, oh, we're just figuring it out or whatever. Now, of course, he really likes Maisha, so he feels like she's different, all this stuff. And honestly, I get it. Him and Maisha, they were sort of kind of a thing when they were in, junior high or whatever. But, I'm kind of giving this, a little side eye because I don't really want Maisha and Kevin together. Just because I feel like now they're total different people than what they were when they were kids, when they were, I guess, dating. You know what I'm saying? They're totally different people. And also, I feel like it's hypocritical for Maisha to be so into Kevin when she was the main one calling out Gemma for sneaking behind Kevin's back. When she's basically, doing the same thing. Not that she's with Papa anymore, but it's the fact that that these boys are friends. They're friends, and now you was dating one and you sneaking with the other. It's a lot. It's just a lot. But we shall see what the storyline, how that's going to unfold, which I feel like because where we see what Papa is doing with this girl Kenya, it seems like he probably ain't even gonna care that Maisha and Kevin back together. Alright, now let's slide on over to Bakari because we see him trying to sneak out of the party or whatever. And I'm like, okay, what he about to go do? I'm thinking he about to go do some dirt or something. But no, he was actually looking for his girlfriend Lene. And I'm just like, oh yeah, completely forgot about them being a couple already. Nonetheless, she tells him how she don't want to be with no street dude. Now, clearly, we realize that at this point, she's been listening to her brother. And she wants him to get a regular job, but he don't want to do that. Now, here's the thing. I'm trying to figure out where is the money going because according to him, he's trying to save up or whatever. And she's like, okay, well, I think that we should break up. And I'm just like, okay, well, that was a quick jump, girl. And, he tells her, listen, you already knew what it was when you got with me. And I'm like, well, Lene, you did know that he was into some hood things. I just don't think that you thought that it would get this deep. And of course, according to Bakari, the whole, him being involved with Duda or whatever, this is all supposed to be temporary, right? But she's like, okay, but how long is temporary? And he's like, well, as long as it takes. I'm like, ooh, Bakari, you gonna be in too deep as well. I feel like you're gonna be in way too deep with Duda, and you ain't gonna know how to get out of this situation. So we shall see what happens with that. Next thing you know, Fatima and Keisha talk or whatever. They're talking about the interior decor and all of this stuff. And honestly, I'm just not sure about this friendship. Again, can these people have friends that are their age? Because I know for sure that Fatima is older than Keisha. And Victor is definitely older than Emmett. So what are we doing here? Nonetheless, let's move on. Now, this next scene, it got me, y'all. Because we actually see Nook have a conversation with Keisha. These two have not spoken in a very, very long time, okay? Because we know what happened with her getting abducted. So he apologizes to her for the night that, he was supposed to pick her up, but she ended up, having to wait at the bus stop, and then that's when she got kidnapped. So he says that, he thinks about it all the time, and she's like, well, what took you so long to say something? And he just figured that she didn't want to have anything to do with him, and he didn't know what to say to her. Because honestly, what can you say? Because you can't change, what happened in the past. And, she tells him that she forgives him. And he says that, he can never forgive himself, though. And I was just like, oh my gosh, Nook has a heart. Because let's not forget, the way we met Nook, especially back then, he did not care, okay? It seemed like he did not care about Keisha. He did not care that she was missing. He was still running that whorehouse that he had. Like, it was a lot going on back then, okay? So, nonetheless, it looked like they could have possibly been about to hug or something. But Emmett ends up coming to tell her to make more cheese dip because they ran out. I'm like, Negro, if the food is running out, that means it's time for these people to start leaving. Okay? Leave this woman alone. But nonetheless, next thing you know, we see, I think it was Shad, Darnell, and Marshawn. They over here sitting around talking about who knows what. Of course, we learn that Shad is missing Deja because she's away on a work trip. And for some reason, the men think that she could possibly be cheating. And I'm just like, that's the conclusion that y'all got just because she has a work trip and because he ain't got no job. So now that means that she's cheating? Okay, if that's y'all theory. Marshawn, he goes on to talk about him having multiple partners and all this stuff. And I'm just like, you know what? We don't need to bring back Master Marshawn. His storyline has ran its course. Yeah, we don't need it. And of course, Shad, he brings up the fact that he still needs a job. Somebody, anybody, please give Shad a job, okay? So, next thing you know, we see Emmett, Keisha, Tiff, and Rob. They're all in the kitchen. And Emmett brings up the fact that EJ was cussing. And everybody's laughing about it but Keisha. So, Rob, he apologizes for it. And Tiff is like, well, kids curse. We cursed when we were growing up. Like, it is what it is. Now, Emmett is like, he could do it at home, but not at school. So Tiff is like, okay, so it's okay for you to curse, when you doing whatever and not him. And Emmett's response is like, well, he's 5 years old. And Tiff is like, well, he doesn't know what he's saying. Girl, don't underestimate these kids. So they bring up the fact that the little boy said that he heard it in Tiff's car. And she's like, well, we listen to rap music in the car or whatever. And Keisha, she's like, okay, well, maybe you can listen to the edited version. Keisha, be for real. You gonna tell Tiff to listen to an edited version of anything? She ain't editing nothing down. Come on now. And also, you can't tell me that Emmett is listening to edited versions of hip-hop either. Nonetheless, Tiff don't want to hear those suggestions from her. You know what I'm saying? She think Keisha should probably stay in her place. Now, Emmett, he tries to calm the situation down, but that ain't working either. Like, the thing about Tiff is that Tiff wants to do what she wants, when she wants, and can't nobody tell her nothing. She's not listening to what you're saying in that moment. However, she hears you and will probably apply what you're saying later, but she has to be right, okay? That's just how Tiff is. So her and Rob end up leaving or whatever. And when Keisha and Emmett talk, he basically felt like this is how Tiff is. This is how she always reacts. And it's clear that Keisha no longer wants to tolerate Tiff and her behavior. Like, I could have swore that at some point Tiff and Keisha got back cool. But I feel like there is still some underlying tension between the two ladies. Or am I crazy? Alright, y'all. Now let's slide on over to Darnell, okay? Because he runs out to, catch Doodah before he leaves. And he tells him that, listen, my son won't be needing your protection. Of course, he's referring to the gun. And, he took the gun. We see he has it in his, what's it called? In his waist side. And that's going to be that. So Darnell, he says that the only thing that Emmett needs protection from is Duda. And I'm like, you know what? That's the truth right there. So I'm going to need you to start protecting your son because Duda is crazy. So he goes on to say that if anything happens to Emmett or to his family, that he will kill Duda himself. And I'm just like, oh, okay. Now, I can't lie. When when Darnell said, don't let the earpiece fool you, I fell out. Okay? Because I was not expecting for him to say that. But at the same time, I know that's right, Darnell. You better protect your son. So, next thing you know, Emmett comes out or whatever, and he wants to know what's going on. And Darnell's like, it's nothing that concern you or whatever. So let's slide on over to Lene, because baby girl is at home in her bed, probably thinking about her man. But yeah, they on the outs right now. Next thing you know, Bakari actually ends up pulling up on her. And at first, she denied him, but she ended up, caving in. So he brought her favorite snacks over as an apology. And, she says that she ain't going to jail for him and that her brother wants to meet him. So Bakari has the audacity to be like, didn't he kill somebody? Negro, didn't you? Didn't you kill Ronnie? Are we all forgetting? Like, for some reason, we in season 6 of The Chi, and now some people are out here trying to rewrite their storylines. Last time I checked, Bakari, you killed somebody. Same thing with Victor. Last time I checked, you were Trig. Okay? Why are y'all forgetting who y'all once were? So her brother already knows about him working with Duda or whatever. And Lene questions, how much money is this boy trying to save or whatever. And he's like, I'm trying to save enough so I can get off of Papa's couch. Baby, it's never going to be enough money for you. It's not. Because at the end of the day, you don't want to work a regular job. So she doesn't know what, her future holds, but she just wants to be happy. That's all she knows, is that she wants to be happy. And she tells him that she doesn't want to see him die, and he promises her that she won't have to. Y'all, I don't know what's about to happen for Lene and Bakari. I don't know if we may see something happen to Lene, getting caught up with Bakari and his shenanigans, or I feel like maybe Bakari may not make it to the end of the season. We shall see what happens, okay? Now let's jump on over to Victor. So he basically tells Fatima that he wants her to move in because he wants her around. And she's like, okay, but what about your brother? Why was his response, he don't pay no bills around here and he needs to get his own place soon anyways? Baby, black people love to just put their kids out at the age of 18. Like, I don't understand. That makes no sense. But nonetheless, Victor goes on talking about how he wants to build a life with her. So now she's planning on moving in. Y'all, I don't know, something else needs to happen with Victor. Because this whole him being a councilman, him being all lovey-dovey, I'm just not buying it. Like, I miss the old Trig. I really do. But let's go ahead and move on. So we actually jump back to Smokey's. And Kenya and Papa, they're talking or whatever. She thanks him for sticking up for her with the guy earlier that day. And she ends up asking him if he wants to hang out with her. I think like go bowling or something like that, right? On a school night. So at first he's like, oh, I gotta ask my mom, because I gotta be back by 11. Then he's like, you know what? F it. You know what? I'm just gonna get home when I get home. I got my own key. I'm like, okay, Papa, you gonna be locked on the other side of that door. But if you want to go ahead and play with your mama, go play with her and see what happens. So, Kenya just ends up saying goodnight. Because clearly that made her side-eye the fact that she's really trying to date a man who's younger than her. Or should I say a boy who's younger than her at this point. So, next thing you know, we see Rob and Tiff there in the car or whatever, driving home. Now, she notices how her son is reacting to rap music or whatever. And then that's when she realizes that, okay, maybe I do need to turn the station. Maybe I do need to turn the music down. And I'm just like, yeah, maybe you should have actually listened to Keisha, okay? But of course, you already know how Tiff is. She had to be right in the moment. She always does this. She always has to be right in the moment, even if she's loud and wrong, okay? So lastly, we see Emmett and Keisha. It's the end of the night, you know what I'm saying? They are in bed, and he tells her that he's sorry about the Tiffany stuff, and she's like, I just want us to be a family unit, and for all four of us to be on the same page, and I'm here for all of that. But can we get some marriages out of this? I mean, we know at one point Tiff and Emmett were married, but I'm talking about from their current relationships. Like, can Rob marry Tiff? Keisha, can you marry Emmett? Because y'all doing a lot. But nonetheless, they also realize that their friends from high school can't be their friends now because they can't relate with those people anymore. Because, they all have lived different lives, going down different paths, and they not on the same page at all. Like, I really hated, though, the perspective that they took from it. Because it wasn't so much that, everyone has lived their own life, so we don't really talk about the same stuff anymore. It was, because we're moving up in the world. And I'm like, wait a second. Moving up in the world has nothing to do with y'all not being able to maintain friendships. Because y'all haven't been able to maintain friendships since we met y'all. Like, we have never seen Emmett with a group of friends and then he outgrew them. Neither have we seen that with Keisha. So I'm just a little bit confused how now they feel like because they're moving up in the world, because they're buying houses and doing all of this, that is what's setting them apart from the rest of everybody. Like, okay, y'all, don't get too big for your britches, okay? Because last time that I checked, y'all two were loners. Like, Keisha, she did have some friends at one point, but Emmett for sure has been a loner, which is very strange. Hell, we ain't really seen him rocking with a bunch of dudes since he was selling sneakers. Y'all remember that? And also, when they were like, yeah, the sad part about moving up is that you have to leave people behind or something like that. And I was just like, y'all didn't leave these people behind. Y'all fell out years ago. Y'all tried to rekindle a friendship just now. But I'm going to let that rock. So, Emmett wanted to know what Keisha and Nook were talking about. And she's like, oh, nothing. You know what I mean? She didn't want to talk about it. And I get it. I wouldn't have wanted to, tell Emmett anything. Because at the end of the day, that really was a personal conversation between her and Nook. And when she's ready, she can tell Emmett what it was about. You know what I mean? So she ends up asking him what was Duda's gift. Because, he made that big old scene in front of everybody for no reason. And he lies and is like, oh, he just gave us some cigars or whatever. And next thing you know, he puts his phone in the drawer that the gun is supposed to be in. But baby, that gun ain't there no more. Because who ended up taking it? Darnell. Remember, he took it at the top of, not the top of the scene, but Darnell ended up taking the gun or whatever. And now he's freaking out, though. Emmett's freaking out because he don't know where the gun is. Hell, one of the kids could have got the gun. Anybody who came into the house could have got the gun. Where is it? Now, Keisha's trying to figure out, like, what is going on, what's going on. He can't tell her. He won't tell her. He just basically lays back in bed and is like, everything's good. Everything's good. No, it's not. Because you know that you are freaking out on the inside, mister. Emmett, you are in over your head. I need for you to realize that you and Duda, this relationship is not going to work. Like, come on, dude. But y'all, that was the episode. Go ahead and like, comment, subscribe. Let me know your thoughts below on this episode of The Shy. And I will talk to you guys in my next review. Bye, guys.